Okay, we're good to go. Thank you, everybody. It's a little right at 10 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to have everybody on mute, but you should see a little chat icon on the top of your screen. So by all means, ask questions during the show. If you're having any kinds of issues, let me know. We'll certainly try to get those resolved as we go along. We have a slight change for our Friday schedule. We're going to have a 9 o'clock start time. We have to stop hard at 10 o'clock. Uh, there's another upcoming webinar scheduled. Also on Friday, we'll be sending out a survey that has two purposes: to provide some feedback on the event, so how we can make some improvements, give you some opportunities to ask any additional questions. But it's also an opportunity to build and create a marketing kit. And we'll be talking about that as we go along. So, I put together this series of webinars. I'm a renovation loan consultant, and I've been doing this since 2008. So, we'll go through the agenda here is, we're going to talk about the what's, what is a renovation loan, more specifically, how to apply renovation loans and how it fulfills a multitude of real estate needs. So that's sort of a unique change in terms of past seminars that you might have seen on renovation loans. Motivate is really sort of answering the questions as to why we should be looking at these renovation loans, and we'll go into more details on that. We'll have a renovation primer, so we'll go through the fundamentals on how these renovations operate from a transactional standpoint. And then we're going to talk about some specific areas on how these renovation loans do fulfill a multitude of real estate needs. So this topic is going to be homes that have issues. And then we're going to close off with our whole marketing kit strategy. So as an introduction, my name is Will Johnson. I've had a home inspection business since 2008. And when the real estate market was going through some rough times, like we may be in that instance now, I started to diversify, and I went through the certification as a consultant. So I started doing renovation loans as a field consultant starting in 2009. And I've probably completed hundreds of renovation loans. I probably manage 2 to 3 dozen every year out there. I'm very, very active with the program. Also have some certifications on energy assessments, and we'll just sort of touch lightly at that as we sort of go through the presentation. So, I talk about, innovation. We're sort of working with some existing tools in the marketplace here. These renovation loans are not new. We're just going to sort of demonstrate how we could use these renovation loans in some real world real estate scenarios. And then motivations. We're going to sort of give you some more compelling reasons on why you should be looking at renovation loans. If nothing else, just have a real fundamental concept on how they operate and work. I'm pretty confident you're going to come across an opportunity where a renovation loan should be considered, and you just want to have some fundamentals on how these operate. More importantly, it's just have your resources, have a team, have a go-to once you have that type of opportunity, so we can help you through a successful escrow. One of the unique opportunities about these renovation loans and this approach that we have is we are just looking at the complete sales cycle. So not just training like you're doing today, but really sort of the whole marketing that goes along with the renovation loans, where they apply and fulfilling real estate needs in the marketplace, and then just have a whole functioning marketing collateral kit that's going to be available to you. So that becomes part of this process is when we complete the survey, we're going to give you an opportunity to build a marketing kit. It's free of charge. So this will help you get into the marketplace with these strategies that much faster. And as you start having opportunities out there that you'll see that you have your team in place, you have your resources to go to really help bring together a complete successful escrow transaction. So I broke the series into three functional areas. On Monday, we did the makeover. Just FYI, I'll be re-recording that. We had some technical difficulties. The webinar didn't record properly. So what we'll be doing is we'll re-record it. We'll send it out via emails to those who are interested in it. So the makeover was really sort of targeted for light types of improvements, finished types of improvements. So you have a house that just sort of looks tired, really needs new flooring, paint, windows, sort of the things that real estate investors do when they approach a property. What we're going to talk about today is this in the series is homes that have issues. And so what we're really talking about is homes that have some real condition issues associated with it. It may be obvious as you're evaluating the property that you may need a new roof or the electrical system is out of date here. Hold on 1 second. I got to make sure I get everybody muted. Okay, back online here. Got everybody hopefully muted this time. So deferred conditions out there, some of it will be very obvious as you're evaluating the property. Some of them might come about during the inspection process out there. So, this is going to give you the ability to, start building construction budget, add it to the loan so you can move forward to create the home that you're looking for. There's also opportunities when there's some real distressed properties. And what I mean by that are properties that really have some obvious deferred condition. It's obvious that they need a new roof. And as you start going through the property, you might have a very old looking heater system that probably needs to be replaced, electrical. And this, becomes very, very apparent. This creates some interesting opportunities because this actually can create some value as you start working through the process here, and we'll go through some examples of that. So again, the homes that have issues, when we have a property that really has some obvious condition issues associated with you, it's going to be offered at some level of a discount. The ones that tend to sort of be attracted to these will be very aggressive cash-only real estate investors out there that, the only way they can really participate is just really make a very highly discounted cash offer. So that creates an opportunity for potential buyers that, they want to live in this property. And now you just need to be from an offer standpoint, you just need to be a little bit ahead of these cash investors. So you're still getting the property at a discount. And one of the biggest attractions with these renovation loans, and this sort of comes out in the makeover seminar that we did, is this gives you a really unique opportunity for your buyers to go out and pick finished improvements that they can enjoy for years to come. And I just think that's a huge advantage with these types of programs out there. As I had mentioned that, if we're getting these properties at a good discount and we have a reasonable construction budget, one of the other values of these renovation loans is they're based off of future value. So you'll be able to have your offer price, your purchase price, plus your construction loan. That's your loan amount. When we run the appraisal will be based off of all of the improvements. So what that does is that'll give you the opportunity to, sometimes these appraisals will come in higher than your loan amount. On paper, you have some equity, and people get real excited when they realize, that this is beginning to look like a real good condition in the marketplace. As I mentioned, the ADU seminar coming up on Friday is going to have a 9 o'clock start time. We're going to have a hard close right at 10 o'clock because there's another webinar coming up through the North County Association. Also, I wanted to share with you, I have a Facebook group, ADU San Diego Area Dream Design and Builds. I would encourage you to join the group just so you can stay on top of and share ideas with other professionals out there. I've seen people come out looking for contractors on the website and a lot of people responding to it. So it's really been a great group, great exchange of information. Certainly look forward to having you give us a like on our company website, make connections with us on LinkedIn. So I'd like to share just a little market perspective before we go into the homes that have issues. Something that has become very important to me when we sort of need to understand some of the real fundamentals on why we're doing home ownership. And this really sort of affects us baby boomers out there. I heard a very sobering statistic that when you turn 65, average net worth is $165,000 if you own a home. The real shock here is what you're worth if you don't own a home. And that's really pretty shocking. It's sort of unsettling to think for a moment that you're going into retirement and you really don't have any assets to work with. So this really just emphasizes the importance of home ownership. It really is the foundation of building wealth. So I think about that all the time in the real estate marketplace out here when I'm working with home buyers on the home inspection process or renovation loan, that trying to do everything that makes sense to make sure we can get through a successful ownership, because I know this is a start for people's ability to build wealth, and particularly as we go into a retirement phase. Wanted to make sure I didn't hear any noise. If anybody hears any noise where people aren't mute on, certainly let me know so I can make the adjustment. I didn't want to skip this part about baby boomers. This is something to think about. You probably have clients in your database that are baby boomers. And now is sort of a time to start reaching out to them and sort of expressing some ideas on what their plans are as they start to approach retirement. And renovation loans could be part of that discussion. We'll talk more about that when we talk about ADUs. That's going to present an opportunity. Some of them are going to need to cash out, right? And they need that equity in that property. So that could be a listing opportunity for you. So I just think that's an opportunity for realtors now is a good time to start reaching into your database and start making contact and start having some discussions. And we have some marketing tools and solutions to help sort of help that conversation going. And I'm confident you'll find opportunities just by working through your existing customer database. This is an issue that's just come to a screaming halt now. The iBuyer marketplace has just suddenly collapsed and gone dead. Nobody's taken on any additional debt. So Redfin has stopped, Open Doors stopped, Zillow has stopped. So I think they've stopped. I don't think they're going away. I think they're going to come back at some point in time. But, this is just sort of something that I think we need to all pay attention to and be cognizant of, that, we need to sort of rethink some of our positioning in the marketplace. And that's part of the purpose of these renovation loans, is to really sort of give you some new tools and some solutions to work with in the marketplace so you can really start to distinguish yourself and bring some tools or solutions that you previously hadn't considered in the past, and just really makes you stand out in the eyes of your client. So why renovation loans? So in the San Diego marketplace, I think we'll have a perpetual scenario where we're always going to have tight inventory out there. I don't know if that's ever going to go away. So So in any case, this will give us an opportunity to do more with less. You have some properties that maybe not quite fit the ideal needs of the client. We can actually create that. I think that's one of the exciting things about these renovation loans is we can literally add any kind of improvement and just really make that to the point where it is very, very attractive to the buyer. Fulfills a multitude of real estate needs. So we'll be talking more about that today in terms of the types of opportunities out there in the marketplace. We already talked a little bit about leverage future value. Again, that's, these renovation loans are based off of future value. We can create equity opportunities sometimes even before we close escrow. We can also distinguish ourselves in the marketplace, and we just sort of went through that again. But again, this is just, if we're in a competitive marketplace out there, I think you need to sort of stand out, be able and be prepared to bring some solutions to the marketplace that your buyer hasn't previously considered, and really distinguish yourself from some of the other competition in the marketplace. And then we have the HGTV effect. So this is, this isn't a hard sell conceptual that, walking into a property that really lacks luster, there's some really obvious deferred conditions. And, when you get really competent and confident with this platform, you can pretty much ignore what these conditions look like because you can fix them. It becomes sort of a price issue from that standpoint. Most of your buyers, certainly this isn't a stretch of imagination to realize we can do these types of improvements. They see it all the time on shows like HGTV. They know there's a whole industry out there of real estate investors that this is how they do their business. And this is really, an attractive opportunity for you to present these types of solutions. And again, being able to provide these finished improvements and that the customer picks out is just a huge advantage. I see it when I'm working with clients out there on these types of loans. So I already talked about this a little bit, but just to sort of re-illustrate this is, we're going to put a construction budget here. The appraiser is going to base these improvements off of the future value of the property. So the appraiser is going to come back with an appraisal of $600,000 based off of these types of improvements. So what this does is this gives you a larger construction budget to work with. These loans are available for purchase and refi. Do an awful lot of these loans as part of a refinance. And that could be part of a strategy for you is you may not be able to get your customer into the ideal property now, but just have the knowledge and confidence that they can come back at some point in the future to refinance and create the ideal kinds of improvements that they're looking for. So I talked about how these renovation loans really fulfill a multitude of real estate needs. I talked about the makeover that offered the finished improvements, homes that have issues with deferred conditions. We can find a property that literally is just not even habitable. We can do a complete renovation. We can take a house literally down to its foundation and rebuild it. We can do room additions. We can also create income properties. And I have a whole portfolio of properties that I can share with you on our Friday webinar. And then last but not least is there's plenty of opportunities to do energy efficiency. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our webinar today. So what are renovation loans? These are government-backed insured loans from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA. And very simply, it allows us to add a construction budget to a home purchase or refinance. They have very attractive low down payments. It is one loan. So at the end of the day, when we finish the construction, there's one mortgage payment that's basically going to be based off of the aggregate of the purchase price plus the construction budget. And again, it's based off of future value. So there's two types of flavors of these renovation loans. There's the limited. Again, this is really designed for finished improvements. That's sort of why we talked about that in the makeover webinar series on Monday. It has a budget of $35,000. The process is a lot more streamlined. That's actually what it used to be called. It used to be called the streamlined loan. And then there's the standard. Standard is usually based off of funds over $35,000 that usually have some kinds of moderate or extensive renovations that are planned or considered. So to compare these, FHA and Fannie Mae is they both have the limited, they both have the standards. You can see there's a distinction between the low down payments between them. Mortgage insurance. So here's a distinction between the two: is mortgage insurance is built in and part of the FHA loan. The mortgage insurance can go away with the Fannie Mae Homestyle product if you can protect 20% equity out there. So one point to think about as you work through this is a lot of my clients do not see this as a loan that they're going to stay with. Some of them literally go into these loans, do the renovation, and then they're trying to refinance as soon as they can qualify for it. One of them is because they want to get rid of the mortgage insurance. There might be a better interest rate at the time they're looking at refinancing. So that's not an uncommon process, a strategy as they work through this process. The appraisal, what's interesting is the FHA offers 110% on the appraisal. So basically what that means is your budget amount, so your purchase plus your construction costs, can go 10% over the appraisal amount. So that's one advantage with the 203K. This can also be a strategy if you ever run into a scenario in your other transactions where the appraisal comes in over the offer amount, the loan amount. So what you could do is think about converting this loan to 203K. Now you qualify for 110%, get you over that hump. That transaction can move forward. So we can certainly talk about how that works offline. Fannie Mae is at 95%. Another distinction between the two is owner occupancy is a requirement for the 203K. Fannie Mae does have some options where you can work with investors. So what's different about these renovation loans is we have some new players involved in this transaction process. The lender really ideally should be a renovation loan specialist out there. The contractor becomes a key part of the process during the escrow. They have to put together the construction bid, and they're obviously involved in terms of completing the renovation. And then the renovation consultant, I'm involved with doing the initial compliance inspection. I also then create work write-up documentation, and then I stay with the project to do fund disbursements. We'll go into more detail about that. So again, as a renovation loan consultant, I will be doing an initial inspection. It's usually going to be done at the time of the home inspection. And usually what I'll do is I'll put together two reports: your home inspection and your compliance inspection. The compliance inspection is going to identify any health and safety issues, any kinds of deferred issues. Anything that gets itemized in the compliance inspection now needs to be part of the construction budget. So once I do the compliance inspection, we forward that compliance inspection to the contractor to make sure that they're including those items into the construction bid. My next role is that construction bid actually comes to me. I start creating documentation. This needs to happen during the escrow window. And then what I'm doing is I'm building together a summary of all the information, make sure permits are being pulled, really answering the question to the lender is, is this a sound project? And is it complete? And so I'm trying to answer that with construction knowledge from a field perspective, that this is a solid, verified, stamping off that this is a good project to work with, to move forward with. And at that point, they basically order the appraisal. The appraisal comes in, meets the budget, close escrow, and then I do what's called fund disbursements. So the realtor is done, the lender is done, that construction budget moves into an escrow account. I start working with a draw department with the lender to manage the disbursements of funds. One really key advantage to these loans is we don't release any funds until the construction work is completed or partially completed. So the scenario would be is the contractor starts, they have to work with their own capital, start doing some of the demolition, start building out. They'll spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. They need to get reimbursed on that. They'll contact me. I go out and do what's called a draw inspection, verify that work's been done. We create paperwork. We send it back to the lender. They release the check. So one of the advantages that brings out, and just really important for lenders and homeowners really appreciate this, is because we don't release any funds until work is completed, is that really protects the buyer. So we don't run into these scenarios where the contractor just stops working, takes off with the money. It just doesn't happen. It also means that the contractor now has to work with their own capital, their own line of credit. They have more skin in the game. So it just gets a higher level of cooperation from the contractor. And I see that when I'm doing these disbursements, these draw inspections out in the field. Contractors are anxious to get reimbursed. They're interested to finish your project versus others just because they have their finances tied up into the project. They have skin in the game. General contractor, very important that the borrower takes full responsibility in selecting the contractor. You may have a list, you may have some recommendations. I have a list, it's a short list. I can share it with you, but it's very, very clear. I'm making sure that the borrower takes full responsibility in selecting the contractor. So again, they're going to go through the customer needs in terms of the types of renovations that they're doing. They will be forwarded to compliance items. So they will now be in a position where they could submit a construction bid. Again, that comes to me for review. I create the documentation for that. As I mentioned earlier, funds are based off of completion of work. So the buyer, again, is protected. HUD has a 6-month window that they want the project completed, not sooner. Fannie Mae has a 12-month time window associated with that. Sometimes those need to be extended, and that's not actually uncommon to extend those timeframes. FYI, if the property is not habitable, the borrower can defer payments at that time. So the loan knows that you could be making a mortgage payment as well as paying rent at some place. So they'll allow you to defer up to 6 months of payment. So where we would start now is really looking at building a team here, getting the contractor on board, your HUD consultant, getting your lender on board. Really try to have this put together as soon as you're going in this direction, you're going to be applying for a renovation loan. Start putting these together as soon as you possibly can. There's also some other additional resources. We have a bid template. We can provide to you. I don't know if you know what a digital measurement tool is, but allows you to start making measurements. I sort of encourage that as you know you're going down this path, let's start getting some measurements taken of the property. The contractor will need that. You might consider bringing on an interior designer and um, and then identifying some areas for finished improvements. We have several relationships with ProSource that actually have a showroom floor. They're sort of the Costco of home improvements. So we've teamed up with them on the makeover strategy. So we can bring those kinds of resources to bear. So let's look at the process in a little more detail now. My role as a HUD consultant. You really want to get the HUD consultant involved in any kinds of preliminary discussions, ideally before an offer is even made, just so we can start to go over for the process and we can really get a game plan together so we can get through a successful escrow. And then once the home inspection compliance inspection is completed, that compliance inspection is then forwarded to the contractor. My next role is the bid comes back to me. I review it, revise the bid with the contractor that it really meets the loan requirements. The loan wants more details with these bids. We want material costs, labor costs, scope of work. We need that kind of information, and that pretty much stays between me and the contractor until that's complete. I complete the documentation. That gets submitted to the lender. The appraisal is then ordered. Appraisal comes in where it needs to be. I always sort of encourage to let's try to get an idea of what this appraisal is going to come in and look like, so we feel pretty confident about this process as we're going forward. And then, we close escrow. The realtor is pretty much done with their process, but I stay with the process until the project's complete. So I think it's important for realtors to sort of see that there is this continuity. I'm staying with the borrower till the project is complete. When we release these funds, the borrower is signing off on all of those documents. So the borrower really understands where we're at in the process every step of the way. So they sort of have some skin in the game as well. They're always apprised. They shouldn't be signing documentations if they don't feel comfortable, releasing funds to the contractor. So that really makes everybody accountable. Just make sure that there's a lot of communications going on so this can become successful. So this is an important slide in terms of really trying to manage this. So this is a very successful escrow. We want to try to move as much of this process into the pre-sale cycle. So you have your team put together. You're going to go out. You're going to start identifying the types of properties that this will work for. Select a contractor. We pretty much want to have a budget to work with before you should be making offers on the property. That's sort of the ideal world, is just really have some of this information. This sort of really lets us know how successful we're going to be with the escrow process. And then once escrow opens up, time is of the essence. We need to get the compliance inspection going. I treat this as a priority. I'll have that compliance report done by the next day, so it's back in the contractor's hands. Get the bid completed, so I'm going back and forth with the contractor, completing the work write-up. That's the documentation I referred to, so we can submit it to the lender, and the appraisal is ordered. And then we talked about the fund process out there. Again, the realtor's done at that stage. We can only build up to 5 draws into the loan. I've gone into numerous scenarios where we've had to do more. We'll take care of that after the funding process. So don't get caught up on the number of draws. Don't get caught up on the time frame of having to finish in 6 months. We've had to extend that. Contingency reserves. So when we put together a construction budget of $60,000, we're going to add a minimum of 10% to that construction budget to allow for anything unanticipated. And that could be anywhere from 10%. It could be as much as 20%. So the purpose of that is in case we run into something we had unanticipated, open up a wall, there's dry rot there that we need to fix. And that's the purpose of it. Real simply, I have a contractor create an invoice. I create a change order of the invoice, and we submit that lender for approval. One other strategy that works very well is when we start getting to the final phase of the construction, is that's when we do the finished improvements. And at that phase, we can go back to the borrower and say, do you want to do any upgrades? Do you want to upgrade the flooring, the paint, windows, appliances? If we have any budget in there, we could create an invoice, submit that to the lender. They approve it most of the time. And now we can put those to work to doing other additional improvements that weren't specifically identified. That also can be a strategy if the lender borrower does not qualify for the full loan amount. So we'll go real skinny on the types of improvements with the hopes of using the contingency to get those improvements back once we get to that phase. So there's a lot of flexibility once we get past the escrow process on how we can work out into the field. So let's look at homes that have issues here. So it becomes pretty apparent that we have some conditions issues out there. This is not uncommon when I do home inspections. I mean, some of these kinds of conditions just get deferred because they're frankly expensive. These could be $10,000, $20,000 types of expenses, and they just don't get done. And so here's an opportunity where we can certainly work with these types of conditions in the marketplace. If we have a buyer that is really sort of ambitious and, and this is, this takes confidence. And if you get familiar with this process, I mean, this is sort of what real estate investors are looking for. They want to find the worst property in the worst condition. They want to buy it at a discount because they can know we can do these types of improvements. We can do a complete transformation of the property. And these are the kinds of scenarios where we're getting them at a discount. We get a reasonable budget, construction budget put together. And now this is going to compete with other recent sales in the marketplace. That's what the appraiser is going to be looking at. And in many instances in this property in Logan Heights, they had like 5% equity once the appraisal was done. So people are sort of excited that they have equity on paper because of this process. So it's not that uncommon, and this is probably the best opportunity out there to sort of realize that. So when you talk about people creating value, and now that you have the opportunity of creating these kinds of finished improvements that the customer's picking out, I think this really becomes an attractive endeavor for those types of clients that are really trying to take advantage of this. We can also do room additions. So we can add, a master suite to that property. All sorts of types of adding square footage to the property. We'll talk about ADU and granny flats in our next webinar. But there is one caution here, is one of the issues that really sort of makes this sort of challenging from a time standpoint is these all sort of require us to come up with plans and submitting plans to the building department. Frankly, that takes time. It takes weeks. Sometimes it takes months. Sometimes lenders will allow us to work with, an initial design and a budget. I've had other lenders that come back and say, nope, I want stamped plans from the city. Well, that's not going to work under most scenarios out there. So, so think about that. We can do it. You might want to think about sort of deferring this purchasing the property and then come back and apply for a renovation loan. We've done that. We've had to do that because of the time constraints. It's really important that we getting obviously full cooperation from the listing agent as we sort of take on these types of processes out there. So I'd like to share a couple of examples here. This was a refinance. Here was a home that was, you know, let's just be candid. We have sort of a functional kitchen here. Um, they have a breakfast nook opening into a dining room. Everybody wants an open space these days. So this was a pretty major renovations. We've finished all of the floors, put in new stairs, beautiful entrance to the place. But look at the kitchen. I mean, that's just gorgeous. And just imagine the transformation that we went from to being able to deliver something like this. And just sort of the satisfaction knowing that you as a realtor and lender and contractor, consultant really helped participated creating this dream home for this home buyer. So that's what we can create with these renovation loans. Here's another one. This was a purchase back in 2018. Again, another functional kitchen. And then we have the proverbial separation of a wall, I'm just making sure we don't have any mute issues here. Making sure we have everybody wants to remove that partition wall. So again, another transformation of the kitchen. It just looks gorgeous. And here we have that open design. So we have that living room, dining room, kitchen. The buyer couldn't be happier. We just know that, they have their dream home, that they are going to enjoy for years to come. And they really couldn't get there any other way. So it's really exciting to sort of see the kind of transformations that these properties go through as a result of these renovation loans. Here's another recent purchase, and I just wanted to sort of show that this is another scenario where the kitchen I sort of thought was good condition. I thought it was attractive, but they really wanted to open design, so they wanted to open that wall between the living room and the kitchen area, and just wanted that open space. This is not a big property; it was a 2-on-1, and they just went through this beautiful transformation. I got a picture of, what did the borrower do? They had a housewarming party. And, as a realtor, I just think you need to pay attention to this because, this is a great referral opportunity for you once people sort of see the transformation they went to, that this really gets exposure. I've benefited from these kinds of transformations for it. This is done. This opens up, their network of other friends and neighbors and coworkers, knowing that this is the kind of things that we can accomplish with renovation loans. So let's talk about sustainability. I just wanted to mention part of the requirements with these renovation loans is just to make sure that we're doing some reasonable energy efficiency improvements. So they want us to make sure that we are doing caulking, weather stripping as part of the renovation loans. If there's no insulation up in the attic, they will want us to include insulation. Again, we're trying to make this home more energy efficient. It'll make it more comfortable. It'll help bring down some of the energy costs. One of the other advantages is there's an add-on type of a loan called an energy efficient mortgage. And very simply what it does is allows the borrower to extend their loan qualification amount to doing energy efficient improvements. So allow them to go over what they were originally allocated in terms of loan amounts and exceed it for energy efficiency improvements. And part of the rationale for that is very simply is We're going to allow you to borrow more, allow you to have a higher monthly payment because we know we're lowering your energy costs. So your energy costs are going to be lower. So they need to see that offset. We can actually do solar and wind technology and bring that into the opportunities here with these EEMs. So think about that. I mean, I can tell you from a home inspector and as an energy auditor, home buyers are interested in solar. It's usually a consideration of costs. So this just creates another opportunity to discuss with the buyer that we can bring solar into the loan amount. They can qualify for it. They're going to benefit from obviously much, much lower energy costs. And I think that starts to make sense in this day and age. There's also some rebates that are available. I need to update that because some of that's changed over time. There's our rebate. So that's just going to improve the whole energy efficiency opportunity, take advantage of these kinds of rebates that exist in the marketplace. So from a client profile standpoint, I think this is pretty self-evident, value-driven. They have some very specific needs in the marketplace on what they're looking for. That may not exist. So you want to be able to just tell them, we can create it. We can create it. Creative minded, investment minded, if they're really just trying to really see this as an investment, we can certainly achieve that with these renovation loans. This is a good opportunity for first-time home buyers. When we're looking at target properties, again, these are sort of the fixer-uppers, need repair, TLC. They've been on the market for a long period of time. Start to look at bank-owned and foreclosed properties out there. You're going to be able to buy them at a discount. Properties that start to run into problems from the home inspection process. And then, as you probably know, HUD maintains a list of HUD properties that are available from this. So here's some tips in the field. Be very cognizant of the escrow time. Try to get as much done prior to making that offer. Let's get that bid ready. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes this gets discovered in the home inspection process, but just sort of try to move as much of that prior to opening up escrow. Getting a contractor on board, that's really, really important. As soon as I'm on board, I want to start talking to the contractor and just making sure he understands how this program works, just so we can hit this process running and getting the bid put together, because we're trying to do this through the escrow window. Again, as I mentioned previously, we want the buyer to select the contractor. Just really important that they take that responsibility. I can share with you instances where that's become really paramount in some of my past experiences. Scope of work, again, it needs to be detailed. We need material costs, labor costs. And again, this is something I'm certainly managing that with the contractor as soon as I'm brought into the picture. Real important for the realtor, the buying agent, to really manage the listing agent and just give them a level of confidence. We got this. The borrower qualifies for the loan amount. We did our homework on, the value this property comes in. So we're very confident. We just need to sort of work through the process and just keep them posted on the process throughout. So that pretty much wraps up my discussions about homes that have issues. I'm going to segue into the marketing kit. I've been maintaining this website SD203K for a couple of years now. And so this is a real good resource, not only for clients, but for realtors. It's really designed to be a comprehensive website out there that I maintain. So not only do I see this as a resource out there, but I really want to, assure realtors and lenders that I keep this completely independent. I'm not promoting any other vendors on the website. So I want you to feel very confident that you can send your clients there, that you can use this as a resource to share with your clients out there, that they're going to get some good information out there. Um, I have a lot of before and after pictures on there. So that's always fun to look at, to see the amazing transformation that takes place with these renovation loans. And then I've done a lot of work with accessory dwelling units out there. I have multiple pages on everything from financing, pre-approved plans. Here's how the new ordinances work. So I've been keeping that up to date. That's where a lot of my maintenance is gone with this website. So this is a great web resource for you to take advantage of. So by all means, feel confident you could refer your clients to it, and never should feel threatened that they're going to expose you to other competition out there in the marketplace. We also have a whole library of collateral that we will customize for you. So, we're not going to make you experts today on renovation loans, but this will certainly give you a talking piece and just allow you to present something to prospective clients on, here are some ideas here, in helping them on their home buying quests to find their next property. We also have one for the listing side that's really more for the makeover process that we went over on Monday. Here's another one on accessory dwelling units. Again, we'll sort of remove all of my contact information, put yours in there. This is a great talking piece. I've really set myself up as an ADU resource in the marketplace. I'm getting a lot of calls from realtors. And what I've noticed is realtors are calling me because their clients, prospective buyers, are asking them, trying to make purchase decisions on whether they can add an ADU or not. So this is sort of why I see realtors really getting more involved with ADUs. They get it because some of their buyers are beginning to make decisions based on whether they can add an ADU. And you'll see in my presentation, I'm pretty optimistic. We can always do some type of ADUs out there, and we'll talk about that on our seminar on Friday. I also wanted to share with you is I'm actually a solution provider for Constant Contact out there, and I use this very extensively in my own marketing. It really helped me maintain contact with my customer database of clients that I've done home inspections for over the past 14 years. And it's a very affordable solution. So that's really part of our marketing kit is we have a platform that we can share with you. What I've seen with project or companies like Constant Contact and other email providers is they've really transformed into actually a platform. So it's not just email marketing. They have a whole marketing, social marketing strategy. So the content that I make available through email marketing is also available for social marketing, and those are literally 1 or 2 clicks away. Of content that I'm moving out on email marketing is now immediately available through my social marketing feeds. And that really is effortless. Constant Contact is also now providing websites, very basic 3-page types of websites. But as you can see, they started to realize, how important that all of this integrates and how they all need to be working in conjunction with each other. So as a solution provider, just sort of walk you through the process from an email campaign, where it allows you to sort of go back and start marketing to your past client base. As I talked to you previously, we have an opportunity where we should be reaching out to the baby boomers out there because we have some content we can talk to them about. This will also bring, brand awareness, creating multiple touch points. I mean, we all sort of need, in this day and age, that we need to do our marketing over the internet. We need to increase the number of touch points out there in the marketplace. We need to become top of mind. I would say, out of all the email marketing that I'm doing, I see the effectiveness of top of mind out there when email marketing that I sent out actually comes back to me to ask additional questions, comes back to me to order a home inspection. So this is sort of living proof on how effective, email marketing when it's done right can be achieved, and it really does create some tangible results that you can look back to. It provides campaign reports, so what I like about it is it actually shows me not the quantity of how many people opened up and click through to the rate, but it actually helps me see that individually. And now I could start to see, okay, we have certain people really paying attention to that marketing. So at times I'll look at this and I will actually pick up the phone and start that conversation. What you find is that becomes a very welcome conversation that can turn into an opportunity with you. So I don't want to finish without just letting you know that, we certainly have the support mechanism in place. We have your team put together. We're going to be able to help you from a marketing standpoint. When an action, an opportunity presents itself, we're a phone call away that we can help you manage the process all the way through escrow. I'm staying with the process through fund control. So know that your client is being protected. They're not going to have that contractor take off with their money. I'm going to stay through it through completion. You want to be familiar, stay with the process just from a finishing standpoint. You want to have those before and after pictures. You want to go to those properties, to those parties, those home warming parties out there, just so you can network and help people sort of understand how they can achieve this as well. So that wraps it up. We're sort of right on our finishing time frame. So we will be sending out a survey on Friday after our last seminar. Again, that starts at 9 o'clock, has a hard stop at 10. We'll send out a survey after that, getting some good feedback, asking me some additional questions that you might have. And then it gives us the starting point of setting up that marketing kit for you. So it has multiple strategies in there. I'll take a quick look here, see if there's some questions I need to be answering here. So somebody said 35,000 K Reno is low for Reno. Yes and no. No for limited. It's really designed for finished types of improvements. I can tell you from doing estimating, I can get pretty far with $35,000 when we're doing finished improvements out there. But there is the standard, and the standard for renovation loans go well beyond $35,000. Again, that's based on the appraisal amount. I'm working on a refinance right now where we're adding income property. Just to give you an idea, the construction budget alone is over $400,000. We're building, a duplex in the backyard. So we can go higher. It's based off of the escrow. So somebody just closed and they have a home buyer that wants to renovate. That's great. We can do that. They can come back and start talking to a renovation specialist. I'd be happy to introduce you to several of them based on their needs. And, the interest rate is going to be somewhat close to what the conventional rate is. But, I don't see these renovation loans as being sort of something that they're going to stay with for a long period of time. I've had several of them. They get into these loans and they get out of them just because they want to get out of that mortgage insurance, and sometimes there's better interest rates. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We're right where we need to be at 11 o'clock. Thanks again. This will be recorded. This will be available to you. Look forward to seeing you on Friday.